Hi friends, my name is Emily and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you what I plan on reading for the Reading Rush 2020. So I will leave a link to all of the information for the Reading Rush in the description box down below. There are 7 challenges for the Reading Rush and I have picked 7 books and they can sort of overlap and meet multiple challenges. So the first challenge is to read a book with a cover that matches the color of your birthstone. So I was born in October. My birthstones are opal or pink tourmaline. Opal ranges from like white to this like turquoisey color, and so I have picked sort of a compromise that's sort of like some of the colors that opal can be, and so this is I'll Get There, It Better Be Worth the Trip by John Donovan. So this is a piece of queer middle grade fiction that was published by Ursula Nordstrom, who was this like badass lesbian that changed the shape of children's publishing as we know it. I picked this up as part of a project to talk about good books for bad children, the things that Nordstrom had a hand in publishing, and like how these sort of radical texts changed the shape of children's publishing. And then like every time I put feelers out for it, YouTube's just like, no, I'm not interested. So I'm gonna be reading this by myself with like no project in mind anymore. So this is the story of a boy named Davy who is being raised by his grandmother, and when his grandmother passes away, he has to go live with his mother. His mother is a bit of an alcoholic, like she lives in Manhattan, lives this like high social life, not really interested in being a parent, and Davy is questioning his sexuality. So challenge number 2 is to read a book that starts with the word the, and so the one that immediately jumped out to me, I think because the spine is just this bright yellow, is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. So this is a piece of young adult fiction, and I believe, yes, girls banding together to protest the sexist culture at their school. It's been on my list for a while, and I mean, why not? The third challenge is to read a book that inspired a movie that you've already seen, and so this was actually quite difficult, like moving through the shelves, because I tend to read the book before I see the movie. The one book that I could find on this shelf was Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, so I have seen the filmic adaptation of this and I have not read the book. The fourth challenge is to read the first book you touch, and so what I did for this is I closed my eyes and I stood in front of the shelf and I just sort of like put my hand out and like I had finger spread and whatever spine touched first. This is The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. So this is a collection of short stories, including The Lottery, which is, I think, probably her most famous short story. I have sort of dipped into this collection a little bit for women in horror, and it's a kind of an odd collection, not entirely what I was expecting, given like The Haunting of Hill House and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. This wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I think it's good to include a short story collection in a TBR like this just because it gives me something to pick at, and also it starts with the if I need to combine challenges. The fifth challenge is to read a book completely outside of your house, and so for that I picked a very small book that I could definitely sit outside and read in an afternoon, and so this is Children's Literature, A Very Short Introduction by Kimberly Reynolds. It is what it says on the tin. It's a short introduction to children's literature. I have an academic interest in children's literature. It's what I did my MA thesis in. I feel like it's always nice to sort of just review. Question number 6 is to read a book in a genre that you've always wanted to read more of. I have picked Midnight Robber by Nalo Hopkinson. So this is a piece of science fiction. I really like the idea of science fiction, especially more of the soft, feminist science fiction. There is a lot of academic discourse around women writing science fiction especially. I have always found sci-fi really hard to get into. It's never really been my interest as much as fantasy. Like, fantasy is where my heart lies. But this book comes highly recommended by both folks in real life and on the internet. This is set on the Caribbean colonized planet of Toussaint. It's set in this Carnival time, celebrating with music, dance, and pageantry, and the masked midnight robbers waylay revelers with brandished weapons and spellbinding words. To young Tan Tan, the robber queen is simply a favorite costume to wear at the festival until her power-corrupted father commits an unforgivable crime. And so it just, I mean, fits the last challenge of a book that takes place on a different continent from where I live, because this takes place on an entirely different planet. So if I need to double up, there's that. Nalo Hopkinson is a Black woman writing sci-fi, so it fits with my interest this year in reading more diversely. That was one of my goals for the beginning of 2020, was to read more women of color, more queer women. I'm also doing a buddy reads with my patrons. I have some discussion questions planned so that maybe we could read this together throughout the Reading Rush. I know there is a buddy read book that the Reading Rush has in and of itself, but again, with like shipping times, it's not a book that I own, and I don't know if it will arrive in time. Spoilers, the book did arrive in time. Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed is I was gonna call it the Booktubeathon. It's the Reading Rush book club pick. I am excited to have 2 buddy reads during this week. I have no idea what this is about. I have put this out there as a buddy read. If you want to buddy read this with me, my Patreon is linked in the description box down below. This, I think, is my #1 priority over the rest of this book stack. And question number 7 is read a book that takes place on a different continent from where you live. The Nakano Thrift Shop by Hiromi Kawakami, translated by Alison Markin Powell. So I read Strange Weather in Tokyo last year. I was sent that book for free by Osusume Books in exchange for an honest review, and I loved Strange Weather in Tokyo. Like, I loved just the cozy vibes, like this sort of soft, complicated romance. Found the same translator because I feel like I'm reading this in English, so a lot of my experience with the coziness of Strange Weather in Tokyo is down to the translation work. So I picked up a book with the same translator as well. And so this fits different continent. This also fits the challenge for the birthstone. The other birthstone for me is the pink one. This is like super pink, can't deny that. And it also works in with my personal goals of reading more women and women of color and just trying to read more diversely. Like, again, I filmed a video at the beginning of this year that never went up about my reading goals. I think I was already into February, March by the time I actually had time to edit it, just with Lumos and everything else I was working on, and I ended up deleting it. Just, I needed space on my computer and it felt irrelevant. I think that's where I'm at. These are the books that I am sort of looking at for the week of the Reading Rush. Obviously, it's probably 100% too ambitious a TBR pile, but I mean, I think that's the whole point of TBR piles, is to have like really big goals, like to reach high and just have something to strive towards, right? Let me know, are you participating in the Reading Rush this year? What are you planning on reading? Have you read any of the books that I have shown here today? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you, patrons, for making videos like this possible. I really appreciate your support. Also in the description box, you will find resources for Black Lives Matter. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.